New cards just dropped. Whoa, 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 wait, what? New cards just dropped? Hang on, I'm out of this game. Oh! You better not be debating me. Yo, is this it? New cards? Quinn scouts the way.
Justice takes wing.
Oh! New cards! Summon Valor. When I've seen you attack for what's up with the quality on this, dude? So it's a 5/3/4 with Scout. What do you guys think Scout does? Don't just guess. We'll say, right?
Valor to me.
So this also has Scout. Does Scout block elusives? A 2/2/1. Grizzled Ranger, Scout. Last breath, summon Loyal Badger Bear. This already looks good, by the way. A 4/4/1 that summons, I mean, anything. The first time only Scout units attack each round, ready your attack. Oh, thank God. I was gonna say, if this was actually the anti-elusives, that's just bad design. Reach is a hardcore meme. Anyone who thinks that the problem with elusives is that Reach doesn't exist in this game is trolling. Like, this is much better. Jesus Christ. I was so worried there for a second. So, so basically, it's a free attack. Scouts have a free attack. Because your first attack each round, you'll only attack with Scouts. And then you'll have a second attack that round, basically. So every Scout gets a free attack, right? I think I'm getting that right. You attack with Scouts only for the first attack, and then you attack with all your units on the second attack. So this already looks good. So what does that make Scout? Scout's kind of like, it's kind of aggro. That's strong as fuck. It's busted. It's less strong than it probably sounds. It's a lot less strong than it sounds, trust me. We'll go in depth. I'm gonna start like theory crafting this shit.
We're not done yet. Still heart.
Wait. Is this the Badger Bear? Is this a 4/4? What the fuck? Wait. Hang on. What? A 4/4/1 Scout, last breath, summon a 4/4? What? Oh, they're buffing Demacia. Thank God, dude. Demacia, honestly, it seemed like it was really struggling to come along as a region. Well, it looks like they're finally getting the good tools they needed. Okay, sorry, I went back a little bit.
Still heart, steady aim. No.
Summon Valor challenging the strongest enemy. That's kind of cool.
No one escapes my aim. Fly swiftly, kill swiftly. Don't let them reinforce.
That looks so stupid. Okay. Jesus. Wait, but this is the same thing. Oh, Binding Assault. Here we go. Summon Valor. And it's just a 2-mana slow speed. And Valor is the 2/1 Challenger Scout, right? Interesting. And yeah, Valor is here, the 2/1 Challenger Scout. Then there's Quinn and her level up. Great Thorn Companion. A 5/4/5 Scout. You're paying basically 1 over a Bull Elnuck for Scout cards. Yo, what is this? Just that's a Scout Barrier? The shield is Barrier, right? And then Loyal Badger Bear is just this 4/4 that just comes out. So can we talk about this card? It's a 4/4/1 with Scout. And when it dies, it summons a 4/4. Yeah, it can attack on the same turn, right? So Grizzled Ranger opens attack with Scout. And then you can still have the Badger Bear attack on the same turn when they block the Ranger, right? Cursed Keeper on steroids? Yeah, something like that. Dies to Vile Feast unplayable. I mean, you're still... It's the same as Vile Feasting a Bull Elnuck. They Vile Feast you, and then you've got a 4/4. That's all you need. Isn't it basically a free rally? Sort of, but you're rallying only a certain subset of units, and it's only locked in if you attack with those units first. It's very limited. It's a lot more limited than it looks. So I do have it right that these are the only cards they've revealed, right? And this is probably going to be their big reveal for the day. So what I can do is I can basically start to kind of break down what I think about these cards and like go through them individually and talk about what's going to be kind of weaker and what's going to be stronger, right? So Quinn is a 5/3/4 that when she's summoned summons a 2/2/1. Well, I mean, it kind of doesn't have a mana cost really, but it's a 2/1 with Challenger and Scout. Okay, so she basically starts at 2 bodies. She's a 5 mana 3/4/2/1, right? It's kind of like a Fleet Feather Tracker but with Scout. And that's pretty good, but at 5 mana for a 3/4, it is a little bit behind curve. I will say the 3/4 stat line is actually a surprisingly premium stat line. Check the video. Enemy has an attack from your attack with Scout. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, good to confirm. The 3/4 stat line is actually a surprisingly premium stat line in Runeterra that you actually really don't see on cards. There's almost no card that's a 3/4, but in reality, 3 attack is kind of the point at which you start to see very diminishing returns after that, because the opponent will be chump blocking and you already can block fearsome. And 4 health is kind of the same way, where it's like, you know, a 3/4 and it like having the 4th point of health keeps you out of like a lot of removal ranges. 3/4 is a great stat line. It's much better than a 4/3. Like, it's hard to explain how much better it is than a 4/3, for example. But she's a little slow, right? She's got Scout, so she's got that extra attack. And something like Scout would be super toxic on something like Elusive. They're probably, I mean, to be honest, I think they might print a Scout Elusive, but I do think Scout is going to be fairly limited in region. It has the same fundamental concept as Ready the Attack, right? Which means it's likely going to be locked to the same regions that Ready the Attack is locked to, which is Noxus and Demacia, would be my guess. Although, I guess they might make a bit for Ionia, possibly, if they want to print like an overcosted Elusive Scout. And Elusive Scout would be kind of an OP thing. Like, even if they made it like a 4 mana 1/1 or something, you'd be able to buff that up and it would be a little too disgusting, I think. I think they will actually just limit it to Demacia and Noxus. That would be my guess. It's not a bad concept though. I don't mind it. It's very aggressive, right? The reason you would want to attack twice is basically for that aggression. And Quinn levels up when you've attacked 4 times. But it's not, it's a attack declaration. It's not 4 units attacks. It's I've attacked 4 times, right? Which means you play Quinn on turn 5. Let's say you have the token on 5. You play Quinn on turn 5, and then you attack, and then you attack again. And then on turn 7, she will level up when you attack, and then you attack again on turn 7. Of course, you can make her level faster with cards like Relentless Pursuit. This is a really hard level condition. She's really hard to level. She actually might be like almost harder to level than like Draven. She's one of the hardest level to champions in the entire game, unless I'm misunderstanding something. Attacking 4 times is really slow and really hard, because you have to play her on 5, and then she probably won't be able to attack herself, because then she'll die. There's not really a lot of protection for her. Quinn seems to be, and when she levels up, her level up is basically she summons a Valor on every attack, and it challenges the strongest enemy automatically. And she gets the normal +1/+1 that you see on a level up. So Quinn looks like doo-doo. I think pretty hardcore doo-doo. Now, what you can do is you can combine Scout with Elusive. And I think that's going to be what you're going to want to do. Because when you combine Scout with Elusive, it becomes very toxic. Now, there's no way to give Scout Elusive in Demacia, so you'd have to combine it with either Ionia or PNZ. Sumpworks map might be the card of choice. The reason for that is because it's permanent, right? But giving Quinn Sumpworks is threatening an extra like 6 per turn or something like that. I do think there will be a lot of early decks that try to do Scout plus Elusive. And Sumpworks map is probably the better choice because you do want it to be permanent and not for the turn, but you'll also see some people messing around with Ghost. And Ghost isn't bad there too. Mariner, yeah, Mariner's kind of okay. It doesn't make any sense because Mariner doesn't have Scout, and you only get the extra attack if you're only attacking with Scouts. So Mariner makes no sense. So Scout looks like it definitely could be pretty toxic with when you combine it with something that gives you elusive, basically. Why is it hard to level her up? Quinn attack plus Valor attack are already 2 attacks. 2 other units. Because it's not 4 units attacking, it's 4 attack declarations. Right? That's why it's hard to level her up. It's not just like 1 attack. It's I've seen you attack 4 times. That's very, very, very difficult to level up. Right? They made Scout to kill elusives. Don't mess things up. Yeah, Scout does have the ability to do decently against elusives. It's a very aggro concept, right? It's basically just like I attack with my units and then I get a free attack. Here's the problem though. The problem is that none of the Scouts are actually statted aggressive, right? There's no like aggro Scout. And the fact that Scouts have to attack first is a really, really, really big vulnerability with the keyword. Again, I can promise you guys, Scout looks much, much, much stronger than it is. In reality, Scout isn't that strong. Okay? So imagine Scout is an aggressive keyword because it's like multiple attacks. It's only really good when you're unblockable or when you're facing an empty board, right? But the fact that the Scout has to attack first means that even if you have a Scout, it will often just get blocked out and it won't be able to attack again the second time because it will be dead because they get the extra attack there, right? Think about that. Imagine if Noxus has a Scout, and they probably will get 1 or 2 Scouts, and Noxus can use it a lot better because they're much more aggro. But like, imagine how that's going to work. The opponent will have 1 or 2 blockers. You'll attack first with your Scout or 2. Let's say you have 2 Scout board. You'll attack first with your Scouts. The opponent will block them, and if the opponent's blockers are decent, the Scouts might die. And if the Scouts die, then they don't get the second attack because they're dead, right? It's really important that the Scouts have to attack first and not second. If the Scouts could attack second in the turn, that would be a lot stronger. That would be a lot stronger. But they can't attack first. Scout is only good with quick attack, elusives, and barriers. Basically, yes. And here's another problem. Half of the ways to give those things are basically with stuff that's support. The support keyword doesn't work with Scouts, right? You can't use something like Trifarian Drummer with Scouts because you won't get the extra attack if you have a non-Scout unit attacking to support, right? You can use a rally effect to Scout after your first attack. That's also how you use Mariner or Cytheria with Scouts. You can do that, yeah. It's a cute combo. So you can do a first attack and then a first attack with everything with something like, yeah, Cytheria the Bold would be the good option. Do a first attack with your full board, including Cytheria the Bold, then use Relentless Pursuit. Then you only attack with your Scouts, and then you get another full attack. That would be probably the best way to do it. So you will see a lot of decks that are trying to combo off in that way. And it's definitely there where something like Quinn will probably be at her strongest. Like curving Quinn on 5 into something like Cytheria on 6 with a Relentless Pursuit open, right? But Scout's basically very combo heavy. You need to build a deck around enabling the multi-attack with stuff like Relentless Pursuit. The one problem with it, though, is that inherently the idea of using Pursuit on a concept that already demands more attacks is not really great, because mostly you want to be comboing Pursuit with stuff that actually gives you a wider board. What I like about Quinn is how she spreads out 2 units, including a Challenger. So you can attack with her Hawk, which triggers the Scout. Yeah. You can get a free attack, but the thing is, I mean, her Hawk doesn't really benefit from a free attack, right? That's the one thing about it. Because her Hawk is a 2-1, which means unless Quinn is leveled up, you're not really... Your Hawk will die. It'll trade into something and it'll die. And then you'll have another attack, but it'll be the same attack that you had before. You'll have the same units. Because your Scout didn't get to double tap, right? Rising Spellforce. Rising Spellforce is actually kind of interesting here. I will admit. Rising Spellforce is sort of funny with Scout. And it's in the same region that uses Sunperk's map. And it's honestly a card that's kind of close to playability already. But I do think that's a little too cute. It's possible. It's definitely possible, I gotta say. Do you like the mechanic? It's interesting. I think it's interesting. I suspect it'll have the same fundamental problem that Ready Your Attack has, which is no surprise to anyone because it is the same fundamental concept, which is that it has no middle ground. It's either going to be very good or very bad. And I'm not talking about in the meta, I'm talking about a spot by spot basis. Like, if the opponent's board is like pretty open, it's really OP. And if it's really clogged up, then it's very literally useless. And that's kind of, I would say, a bit of almost, I would personally say, a design flaw with Ready the Attack. It's part of the reason I don't really like it. Because Relentless Pursuit, like, you can put it in mid-range Demacia, and against, like, Ezreal Karma, it's one of the strongest tools you can possibly have. And against the Demacia Mirror, it's one of the weakest tools you can possibly have. And I think that is a little too swingy in its value for that kind of effect, right? I think it's a cool idea. It's interesting. People will ignore the scout package and just use Grizzled Ranger. Okay, so let's talk about some of the other cards and how they might fit in. So Green Fang Warden is a 3/2/2 barrier scout. What that means is when you play him, he'll have barrier for that turn, and he'll have scout, which means he gets a free attack. So you play it as a 3/2/2, you get the free attack, and they can't really block it for value because it has a barrier, right? So they sort of have to let it through, and you'll have another attack with it too. So unless they want to trade into this, it sort of deals 4 free damage to the opponent's face on the turn it's played. He's also an elite. Yeah, he's got the elite tag as well, which is... I mean, I will say, the elite tag is actually important, because this is a card that can use the elite tag very well. If you play Battlesmith on 2 into Green Fang Warden on 3, this is a card that needs stats. The +1/+1 goes very far in this card, and will probably force the opponent to trump it with something. Think of this card kind of like Zed. It's very similar to Zed, which is like, you play it on turn 3, and the opponent doesn't really want to block it, but if they don't block it, they're going to lose some free damage, right? Elite needed 3 drops. Elite needed 3 drops badly. So, like, imagine playing Battlesmith into Green Fang Warden. So it's like a Zed. You're playing a 3 attack unit that will get in 6 damage or demand the opponent chumps, right? Now, that's only for the turn he's played. That's only for the turn he's played, because he has barrier here, right? And he doesn't have barrier for the future turns, which makes this card a really bad version of Zed. So, to see playability, he'll have to get carried by either the elite tag or maybe hitting some barrier synergy archetypes. It's possible. You could definitely go for something like this in a more barrier skewing deck, like with Shen kind of stuff. That could definitely happen. But yeah, Warden, I would say my initial impression of this card, and I have to think about this a lot more before I can say something that's like reasonably accurate, but my initial impression of this card is it won't be run without synergy pulls. I think that it's quite a bit worse than something like Zed. I think that the additional scout attacks aren't really going to be doing that much. And Demacia already has power 3s. Now, elites are kind of missing 3s, but stuff like Laurent Protege is an incredibly powerful card. And stuff like Fiora is probably going to be stronger than this as well overall. Standalone has nuts potential here. Standalone is pretty big on this guy. And it's kind of the same thing as it is with Zed. It's like you can double float into Zed standalone. The big difference is that you don't have to commit to 2 region split to do that, because this is in the same color as standalone, which is big. That is very, very big. But unlike standalone and Zed, you're only getting it for that turn, really. I mean, he still has scout, so he still benefits from those stats, because I mean, he kind of forces them to block and kill it. They can't just tank it, but at standalone attack, they don't really want to be tanking it anyway. Like, he'll get chumped out pretty easily, and the barrier on him does only last the first turn. I still think you're probably better off using standalone on something like Zed. So you got to use the elite tag for this card to see value. I would say this card is playable. Its synergy points make it fit into some decks, and it has some cute combos with stuff like standalone. But I would say overall, I don't expect this to be like a great meta-shattering card. Okay. Let's start easy. Let's talk about the ones that aren't Grizzled Ranger yet, because that's the big bomb, right? Okay, then we've got Great Thorn Companion, a 5/4/5 scout. I think this card is kind of doo-doo, right? It's like you play it on turn 5, you get free attacks, so it's good for something that's going to be skewing a bit more aggressive. Like, what does the combo look like? It probably wants to be played with Cytherea. This is like, Scout is a very aggro concept, and a 4-5 is good in general. So it's like you play Great Thorn Companion on 5, and then you play Cytherea the Bold on 6, right? Then you do the gimmick where you do the full attack with Cytherea, buffing everything and giving everything fearsome, into the Scout attack, and into the rally. To be perfectly honest, the more I think about it, the more that combo is really, really, really toxic. I will say, Cytherea the Bold makes Scouts maybe actually a little unfair. Okay, and let me go ahead and break this down. Let me actually, I'll use like the deck builder just to show you guys what I mean. So you'll have the birth of a new style of aggro Demacia, which is because Cytherea the Bold, the fearsome lasts the entire turn. What you'll see is a strategy that plays, I mean, let me break you down a scenario. You're gonna do a committed float. So let's say on turn 4, let's say on turn 3, let's say you skip the first 2 turns. I don't know. You've got 3 spell mana from somewhere. Okay, so you're banking 3 spell mana. Oops, I just searched Ranger, but Grizzled Ranger isn't in the game yet. Or so let's say you play the Ranger. All right. So you're playing Ranger, the 4 mana one. I should actually, if I want to visualize this, it's better to be doing this. You play the Ranger, Grizzled Ranger, on 4 mana. Then on turn 5, you play another Scout, either Great Thorn Companion or Quinn. And then on turn 6, you play Cytherea the Bold. Now, Cytherea the Bold is pretty powerful, and you've banked 3 mana at this point, right? So you attack on turn 6 with Cytherea the Bold and everything. You give everything fearsome and +1/+1. Then you spend your 3 mana on Relentless Pursuit, getting an extra attack token, and then you only attack with your Scouts. Your Scouts have fearsome at this point because they already got fearsome from the Cytherea attack. They already got fearsome +1/+1 also. It's still for this turn. So then you attack with all of your Scouts, right? It might only be 1 or 2 Scouts. You don't even need a big Scout board. It's just 1 or 2 Scouts. You get fearsome attacks in, and then you do another attack with your full board, right? You must attack with the Scouts first. Hang on, let me read it again. We're gonna make sure. What's the exact the first time only Scout units attack each round, ready your attack. This should work just fine. Assuming this keyword is accurate, what I'm saying would work just fine. The first time only Scout units attack each round, ready your attack. So what you can do is you can do a full attack with all your units, then you can Relentless Pursuit, then you can only attack with Scout, and then you can get the token back and attack again. If you read the words, that should be how it works. Now, I can't guarantee you that's how it works, because maybe it's worded poorly. But if we're looking at the words, that is how it works. The first time that only Scout units attack, you'll ready your attack. It doesn't have to be the first time you attack that turn. And that's pretty strong. That is pretty powerful, right? So that could be a pretty nutty combo that people will start using. I will say, the Scout keyword doesn't really look super impactful, but when you remember that it comes with Cytherea the Bold, that's kind of crazy. And a lot of the Scouts will naturally curve into Cytherea, because a lot of the Scouts aren't playing like hyper aggro. They're playing for the build-up. They're playing for like 4-drop, 5-drop into Cytherea. And that's big, because giving Scouts a fearsome keyword is big, and giving them temporary buffs is big, because you're doubling up on those temporary buffs. So I will say, Cytherea the Bold is definitely something that makes Scouts much, much stronger. Like, Scouts don't look that strong, but when you have combo pieces like Cytherea, they're kind of nuts. Especially because Cytherea is nuts already. So I will say, Cytherea coin is on the rise. If they don't nerf this card for the Scouts launch, this is gonna be like, this might be just the strongest card in the game. It's already proving to be a super powerful card in mid-range Demacia. Like, Cytherea is really, really, really good. And she just makes Scouts a lot more viable. Now, what I will say is that it's kind of hard to run a committal Relentless Pursuit strategy. I think that Relentless Pursuit is pretty vulnerable overall, and is more of a meta-specific tech call than anything else. It was a bit more disgusting with like the Hecarim thing, and Demacia has some ways to make it gross, but against like any sort of mid-range wall deck, it won't necessarily do that well. We can ban him and buff our scouts. Yeah. There's a good chance that some of the allegiances will get nerfed, so we might have to hold off on Bannerman Theorycraft. But yes, that's definitely something you can do. Okay, so now that we're through that, let's go ahead and answer the big question. Well, I guess there's this Blinding Assault. Can you just play this as a card? A two spell mana, 2/1 with Scout. So it's like a Fleet Feather Tracker, except it costs 1 more mana for the ability to use spell mana and the ability to have Scout. Scout and Challenger are kind of two pretty useless keywords together. It's sort of like Usari, honestly. Scout, Challenger. Am I missing something? How do you use Scout and Challenger together? Because Challenger can force them into a block on the same combat, so you don't need the extra combat. And Challenger, it's also sacrifice themselves, so you don't... It feels like Usari, where it's just doubling up on two keywords that don't really make sense, right? So, it can protect another Scout. It does protect another Scout, sure. That's true. That's true. You challenge with Valor. It removes blocker from your other Scouts, but that's basically it, right? I think this is a pretty awkward card. I don't think Valor is going to do very great. Fleet Feather Tracker is already doing the same at 1 mana. Valor equals bad Mystic Shot. I mean, we shouldn't compare it to Mystic Shot, honestly, because, I mean, you just compare it to Fleet Feather Tracker. You would much rather just play your 1 mana Mystic Shot. I think Fleet Feather Tracker is one of the strongest cards in the game that people aren't really complaining about. Fleet Feather Tracker is a very powerful card that people are a little desensitized to, but this is, for the most part, going to be +1 mana on Fleet Feather Tracker. Isn't a 2 mana Fleet Feather still good? Not really, because you would just play 3 of the 1 mana Fleet Feathers, and you wouldn't really need a 2 mana one. You don't really want a 4th bad Fleet Feather. So Valor, I think, ends up being not really strong. I don't have high hopes for Quinn in general. I actually think that, I mean, okay, so when you compare Quinn to like Great Thorn Companion, does Quinn win? Does Quinn beat Great Thorn Companion? She gonna have a hard time leveling, dude. She gonna have a hard time leveling. She's over 2 bodies, which is nice. And she's got the Challenger. It's probably better than Great Thorn Companion. It has to be. But Demacia also has like good premium on their champ slots, which is pretty big. So yeah, I mean, Quinn's not... I think that she, in and of herself, looks kind of weak. I will say. She's not great. But her combo potential is big. Like I'm saying, Cythria or maybe something like Sunperk's map. I will say you're not going to main deck Blinding Assault, I don't think, unless there's something crazy going on with like big scout things. She's going to be really hard to level up. And I don't think that Relentless Pursuit decks are necessarily very stable, because you would need something else that gives fearsome. Otherwise, you're very much relying on top decking into Cythria. So like, okay, look at it this way. Look at it this way. So you attack on turn 5.5 with, at the very least, you'll have Quinn's Fleet Feather Tracker, right? Valor. So you'll have that. Then on turn 7.5, you'll have another attack, right? You'll have an ability to attack, and that could level her up. But that only works if you have a scout that can't even attack that turn. There's going to be a lot of spots where you'll have played Valor on like turn 5. You'll have sacrificed your Valor into something. And then on turn 7.5 or 7 or whatever you're on, you're going to have the Valor. You're going to want to attack with a scout, but you're not going to have Valor. And maybe Quinn's your only scout, and maybe she can't attack without dying. So you might not even be able to level her up on turn 7.5. And the most important thing is, even when she levels on turn 7.5, she doesn't gain a benefit from leveling until you're attacking the 3rd time afterwards, 9.5. That's a really slow level. Like, it's an incredibly slow level for a small payoff. Right? I think that's pretty big overall. She's like a 5 mana Wraith Color with 4 health butt. Yeah, that's true. I would say I don't have high expectations for her. She's in Demacia, which is a powerful region, and Demacia needs more ways to swarm. People will mess around with her, and she's not going to be bad. I expect her play rate's probably going to drop a little bit, unless she can attach herself to some nutty combo. But her level up is probably one of her weaker points. Like, for a champion that doesn't level to be good, it needs to be like Z level powerful, right? Zed's kind of the only champion that you can just play because, or Elise also. But a large part of the reason you run Elise is because she levels. Zed and Elise are kind of the only two champions that you can play and feel good when they don't level up, pretty much, right? And Quinn is not on that list. Okay, next, we've finally got our Grizzled Ranger. Grizzled Ranger, okay? Draven? Yeah, Draven too, sure. But even Draven, the thing about Draven is he's only in specific decks. You need to be able to use the axes with discard. He's more combo-y, whereas like Zed and Elise are just kind of like value tools. But sure. Okay, Grizzled Ranger. This is the one true card. This is a powerful fucking card, right? So, if the opponent kills it, it will summon a 4/4 Badger Bear. Just a vanilla 4/4, which is pretty crazy. That is pretty crazy, okay? And it's a 4/4/1. So basically, what this means is if the opponent doesn't kill this, they're going to be taxed 4 health every turn because it has Scout. They basically have to kill this, right? Loyal Badger Bear is a card. It's a 3-mana 4/4. No, it isn't. Guys, there's no way they're printing this as a card. There's no way you can main deck this. There's literally have they announced that you can main deck Loyal Badger Bear? I can basically guarantee you they haven't printed a 3-mana 4/4. There's no way. It has a rarity? That can't be right. Do other token cards not have rarities? It has a triangle? That literally, there's no possible way they would give Demacia a 3-mana 4/4. Come on. Their balance isn't that bad, guys. Game has 0 tokens so far? No, it has some tokens. What's a token that you can't main deck? Frost Arrow? Okay, fuck. What's another token that you can't main deck? Cursed Keeper? This is a visual glitch. They're redesigning the UI. I can almost guarantee you, guys, there's no way they're giving Demacia a 3-mana 4/4. Do you guys know how powerful a 3-mana 4/4 would be? The 3-mana 4/4 is in the hand in the video. Fuck! Seriously? God fucking damn it! What? Okay, fuck. I think you guys are right. Dude. They just up and give Demacia a 3-mana 4/4. Valor in the video doesn't have... Yeah, you're right. Valor in the video doesn't have the gem. You guys are right. You guys are right. All the evidence says that they're printing this as a real card. Like, everything, all the evidence is saying that. It's true. Jesus Christ! I mean, a 3-mana 3/4. I think a 3-mana 3/4 is already a competitive card, by the way. Just letting you know. Now, it depends on the meta. But... for example, like in the Fearsome meta, you know, when everyone was running Fearsome, every deck would run a 3-mana 3/4. 3-mana 4/4? Ah, Jesus. Maybe it's a late April Fool's joke. It definitely could be. Maybe like sometimes April Fool's jokes takes a lot of time to formulate. Actual Chump Wump? It's a 3-mana Chump Wump. It's a Chump Wump, but instead of useless mushrooms, you get 1 mana. There is no way they print that. Chump Wump is a 4-mana 4/4 and got nerfed. I mean, look, listen. That's what I'm saying. But according to literally all the evidence, this does look like it's going to be an actual card. It was in the hand in the video, and apparently Valor doesn't have a gem. Like, Valor, another new card in the same set, doesn't have a rarity gem. You could say it just got, like... even if it just got recalled to the hand, and even if the rarity gems are getting overhauled, it doesn't make sense because the rarity gems aren't getting overhauled. Apparently, this is a card. I don't know, dude. This is crazy, man. So crazy. But anyway, Grizzled Ranger. Why would you play Grizzled Ranger when you can just play this? Just cut out the middleman, you know? Okay. Reckless Trifarian 3-mana 5/4 can't block Omega lol. You're right. And you know what? Looking at these changes, there is kind of this funny meme where it's like, Demacia has been the strongest region for like most of this game's lifetime at this point, even though in the last patch they nerfed other things and buffed Demacia. Don't let that fool you. Demacia was the strongest region for like weeks before that. And like almost everybody would agree on that. I guess Reddit was complaining about Shadow Isles at the time, but I mean, Demacia has been the strongest region for ages. Since the first nerf came out. Since I think the first nerf came out and nerfed Shadow Isles, Demacia was the strongest region pretty much right after that. And it does look like they're getting some good new tools, I will say. But obviously, I mean, we haven't seen the new cards of the other colors, and there's probably some nerfs coming into Demacia in other ways. So I think that, you know, I think that it'll be fine. I think it'll be fine. So Grizzled Ranger is a power card. At 4, they basically have to kill it. They're pressured to kill this card because it's dealing 4 damage every single turn. You can't chump it and have it not die, right? Think about it kind of like Zed. It's pretty similar to Zed, except that it doesn't really get countered by anything. Like, what counters this card? Actually, wait a second. What does counter this card? The thing about Zed is you can look at Zed and you can say, okay, if I Mystic Shot Zed and they haven't drawn their like Elixir of Iron, then we're good. Because Zed trades down to Mystic Shot. That's a 1-mana card. You say Purify counters this card. Feast counters this card. Okay, so when you play, like, okay, it's important to use the word counter in a way that represents a down trade, right? For the opponent. You force the opponent into a down trade. Okay? So let's say you Feast Grizzled Ranger. So you've played a 2-mana 1/1, and they've played a 4-mana 4/4. So they're paying 2 more mana for +3/+3, and you're getting 1 life out of it. I don't think that's an up trade. I think if one player plays Ranger and one player Vile Feasts it, I think I would rather be the player that played the Grizzled Ranger and has the 4/4 on the board in that trade. I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I mean, the 2 mana is kind of nice, but that doesn't feel like an up trade to me. Purify is similar, but even worse. Like, when you Purify this, I've paid 2 more mana for a 4/1. Purify is actually okay into this. It's probably better than Vile Feast, but it still doesn't feel great, right? It's a bit of an uptrade. Possession, and then sacrifice it? Okay, that's technically true. Braum counters this. Braum is a pretty good counter to this. I will say, that is pretty funny. Braum is a hard counter to this, boys. Hard counter. I've never seen such a counter to a card in my entire life. That's what they're doing. They're putting this in the game to buff Braum. Of course, it's so simple. Braum will just like block this every turn and not give a shit. It's true. It's true. This like, you couldn't design a card that Braum feeds off of more than this card, actually. You really couldn't. You truly couldn't. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Braum can only block the first swing. Shit. Dude, this card is crazy. This is just the definition of 3 of auto include, right? It has no down trades. Like, even Braum doesn't down trade. This is just a crazy card, dude. This is just a crazy card. Purify might be an uptrade. I will say. Like, paying 2 extra mana for like a 4/1. I don't know. Sometimes, depending on the board state, that can be fine. Most decks that run Purify don't have any like chump blockers that they can just throw away willy-nilly, though. Yeah, I wouldn't call Purify an uptrade. I don't think there's a single card that uptrades to this. There's not a single card. It's a really good blocker. Yeah, this can block too. Will of Ionia? You're willing a 4-mana unit at that point. Purify's not an uptrade. It's definitely not. There's no single card that uptrades to this. Probably not even Braum, because like you said, Braum can only block the first hit. It'll attack again, and then you'll have to block it. This will cost you 4 health every turn until you block it, and once you block it, it'll just summon a 4/4. Right? Frostbite? I don't know, Frostbite's okay, but that's not useful, right? It's giving you tax every time, right? Like, think about it like that. It's a 4 mana that says you have to lose 4 HP every turn until you summon my thing, which is unsustainable. It's unsustainable. Whereas, you know, if you can choose to Frostbite it, but then it's the same thing. It's taxing you. You have to Frostbite it every turn. Otherwise, there's no point. You can't sustain that. Hapless Aristocrat is definitely the closest uptrade here. Hapless is probably the closest thing in the entire card pool to be able to uptrade to this, I would say. For sure. For sure. It's quite a bit ahead of, like, Vile Feast here. So yeah, Hapless definitely is a counter to this card, I think. But this card is nuts. I would be pretty shocked if this wasn't a 3 of auto include. Loyal Badger Bear is nuts. This might actually be, depending on the meta, this, as powerful as this card is, just like big stats, like 4/4 is really nice. Trump Wump was seeing played just as a 4 mana 4/4. This is a powerful card. I could kind of see this being less than a 3 of in some decks because Demacia already has a lot of power 3s. But this also seems like a really powerful card. And I think those two are the power cards here. The rest of these cards are a little weak, I would say. Or not weak, but combo reliant. Warden needs to be run with Elite or Barrier synergy to feel good, I think. Or maybe some kind of Scout synergy that we might see later. Great Thorn Companion seems like kind of like almost playable. It's probably a bit more like a draft card in reality. Quinn, people will experiment around with for a bit. She definitely might hit a deck. I think her level up condition puts her a little bit below like huge viability. And Demacia has a lot of good champions that they're fighting for. Like, I don't know. So I think that Quinn definitely has some potential out of these. Probably higher than these two, probably less than these two. And Blinding Assault is probably not main deckable, I would say. People will mess around with it a little bit, but I don't like the idea of main decking this card. It's going to be, I would say, just a little bit too weak. I mean, maybe if Fleet Feather Tracker gets nerfed, you can definitely look at considering this card instead. But Fleet Feather Tracker would probably need to be nerfed for this card to see main deck play. That's it. That's basically my kind of like, you know, general evaluation of this review. I don't know. It's quite interesting. I just love theory crafting new cards. This is my favorite thing about card games. I mean, you guys know that because like before Runeterra even came out, I was just doing like theory craft streams.